Hello everyone, this is part 7 of What If Naruto was exiled after he brought Sasuke back, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. 3 months later. Undervis. Solid Anu, Lowtown. Naruto jumped over and twisted in the air before using a blast of telekinesis to shove a training dummy towards Micah. Their bokken clashed together with resounding cracks and items flew through the air with reckless abandon. Q stood to the side watching his apprentices with a smile on his face. In the 3 months since their training began, they'd grown by leaps and bounds. With the aid of meditation and a subtle amount of motivation from electric shocks, Micah spun aside and his wind shield that surrounded him lashed out and SD the dummy into a dozen different pieces. Q watched as the silver-haired youth sent out Vulna lightning at Naruto, who used his bokken to block it, and using Vulna to send dirt into the air at Micah, whose air shield caught it and spun it away. Q nodded to himself. Over the time here his physical appearance had changed. He'd gained 9 ghost tails and his ears had become pointed. When Naruto asked what happened, he shrugged. Must be my connection to the Vulna. I feel more like myself now, Kit. He'd shown him his hands, which were tipped with sharp nails. You look more fox-like, master. Micah said. I mean the black clothes, rust-colored robes hinted, but the tails and ears complete it. Q watched his apprentices duel. They'd taken to the physical side with no problems. Their sword SKS improved even more by leaps and bounds the more their connection to Vulna strengthened. Q watched as they moved, adding in their taijutsu with Vulna force waves and then chakra-enhanced strikes. Both boys earned money around Solid Anu. Naruto liked delivery jobs while Micah worked in the fox den. Both boys also helped the local orphanage. Q found himself there as well, telling tales to the younglings, a hint of longing in his mind. A loud crash forced him to turn to see Micah straining under a hunk of earth that was in the air. He was using a Vulna-powered tornado to keep it from landing on him. Naruto looked shocked at what he'd done, was unable to move. Q sighed and called upon his own power, and building-sized hunk of dirt moved off and sank back down from where it originally had been from. Okay boys, that's enough sparring for now. He called out, seeing them take a breath. Thank you, master, Micah said. I don't know if I could have held it longer. I'm sorry, Micah. I let annoyance at not being able to hit you get to me, and when I reached out, I grabbed a huge amount of earth and, Naruto said, looking ashamed of nearly squishing his brother in all but blood. That is why we spar, and why I need to be here, boys. Q said, getting their attention. You both feel the depths of Vulna, but neither of you can control it fully. Q smiled as he followed them into the bar. However, I believe it is time for you both to start training outside of the walls of Solid Anu. Learning against fiends and training in the wild surrounded by untapped Vulna will be good. So tonight I want you both to prepare for a training trip to the wilds. Their cheers filled the bar and caused Shippo, who was cleaning up behind the bar, and several of the vixens to look up. Keep it down, you two. Shippo grumped. Some of us haven't had coffee yet. Lazy ass. Naruto said. You're the first one asleep and the last one to rise. While we're the last to sleep and the first to rise, Micah said, looking at the male kitsune who stuck out his tongue. You'd think, being centuries old, he'd have grown up more mentally. Q said, drifting into the bar and settling into a chair near the fireplace. Stow it, Casper, don't you have a house to haunt? Shippo said, stacking the mugs and bowls. Don't you have a dog to chase? Q fired back. The two glared at one another, the kitsune turning from the Lord of Foxes with a HMPH. Oh, don't brood. Brooding leads to being an emo, and being an emo leads to being a Uchiha, and you don't want to be one of those. Q said and looked at Naruto, who looked shocked for a moment before he broke down laughing so hard he knocked Micah over. Q shook his head. You really need to learn to lighten up, Naruto. You're way too serious. Ha, ha, I'm not serious, I'm Naruto. The blonde burst out laughing even more, and Micah joined him. Sigh, I know I should have never let him read those damned books. Q grumbled and shot a look at Shippo. And I blame you for hooking him on those blasted things. Shippo shrugged. Kagami brought them from her world into ancient Japan when I was just a youngling myself. I treasured them and I know the younger kids like hearing them at story time. The brunette Kitsune said with a shrug. That and your bitey hang out with them enough, that I just read to them as well. Q grumbled under his breath. It wasn't that damned funny. Now get up. We have to get ready, and leave the damned books here. This is training trip, not a pleasure trip. No, that would mean you'd gotten laid. Shippo muttered as he continued to work. I heard that runt, Q said and sent a vulnar wave knocking over the stacked cups and smirked as Shippo dove around catching them before they hit the ground. Bastard, Shippo said managing to catch them all, but he laid on the floor glaring at the nine-tailed shade that just smirked and followed his apprentices up the stairs. There are times I really hate him. Shippo muttered getting back to work. They exited the gates and Micah looked over his shoulder. Both he and Naruto were wearing the rust-colored robes and hoods over their regular clothes. They'd both thought that it would be warm, but Q told them there were enchantments on the robes. They would be cool in the summer, warm in the winter. There were repair charms on the robes as well. What the hell are they made of? Naruto asked after a day of wearing them in a spa where they got heavily damaged, but by sundown they were as good as new. Made of the silk from the spiders from the spider swamp. Q admitted. Some of the vixens gather and weave them, then dye them this beautiful color. Both boys had their bokken sheathed over their shoulders. They also carried scrolls sealed inside were potions for healing that had Naruto asking how they were made and if they could be taken back to their world. Well, you can take them with Kit, but making them there won't be possible. Q answered. Why not? Naruto asked as he and Micah walked while Q floated just a pace ahead of them. Simple, Kit. The creatures that pieces are harvested from for ingredients aren't in your world. Q answered. Naruto paused to think about that. You mean there are living things used to make this? No, Kit. There is when their pieces are taken. It's not just parts of fiends, there are herbs and minerals as well. I'm not an alchemist, so I don't know the full rundown of what is done to make them, but they work wonders. Q paused and looked over his shoulder with a smirk. Your little Hyuga would make a great alchemist if she ever came here. That balm she made and gave to you despite being made from plants did a wonderful job. Naruto looked at him. My Hyuga. Hinata. Q chuckled. Micah, tell me, if a girl turns bright red around you and stutters, faints and twiddles her fingers, what does it mean? Micah, who had been looking around as they entered the Ester Sands, looked at his master and then at Naruto. I think it means she likes you. You could ask one of the vixens. He smirked. I know that one, with the three tails, has been watching you like a slab of beef. What? No. Naruto said looking at Q, who was chuckling. Ah, Sissa. She would make an interesting mate. Q said. No. I mean, Naruto looked at Micah. Hinata. Micah shrugged. Don't ask me, bro. I've been out of Konoha a lot longer. I do remember her always peeking around a corner to watch you when we were younger. Or you could try with Sissa. I'm sure she would like to show you the ropes. Q teased. Naruto humphed and walked past his master and Micah. So annoyed was Naruto at the pair for teasing him, he nearly stepped on a strange little creature that looked like a man-shaped cactus with a red flower atop its head. A vulnar wave from Q sent him crashing to the side and he got up scowling. Don't step on the cactower. He warned Naruto from stepping on the small creature that was still asleep. They may not look like much, but their main offensive weapon has been known to bring down full-grown dragons. Dragons? Micah asked with interest. Later, Kit number 2. Q said, motioning Naruto to move towards him, and then took on his lecture pose. Now then, the cactower, while looking cute and innocent, is a very dangerous little fiend. The ones with the red flower are even more so. Q motioned for them to prepare their weapons as he kept speaking. The cactower, while weak physically, have an offensive attack that is very dangerous. Naruto, bored with the lecture, attacked. As if possessing a danger sense, the cactower awoke and seeing Naruto rushing at it, jumped to its little feet and took on a pose as if threatening Naruto to turn back. Naruto brought his bokken down, but the little cactus creature dodged rather easily and swiped with its little arm. Several cactus needles dislodged and embedded in Naruto's hand. He yelped and leapt back. Where the cactus needles were sticking out of his hand, the skin was turning red. Sigh, so impetuous. The cactuar needles are coated with a special toxin that, while weak, can cause sickness and weakness. Listen, Barker by T. Q scolded and used a vulner wave to knock the cactuar off its feet. Now that it's awake, I'm afraid the lesson is going to be more complicated. Q had just finished saying this when the little fiend was back on its feet and made a strange sound before spinning in place. Crap, Q said, and Micah and Naruto dodged aside while Q used Vulner to make an invisible barrier that the needles slammed into. That my by T is the cactuar's greatest offensive weapon. 10,000 needles shot from its body in one go. At such velocity it can L through even dragon scales. Such an attack usually shreds the target. Get up, both of you, Q said, looking over to see both his apprentices on their stomachs with their heads covered. Micah and Naruto got to their feet and saw the pile of needles laying broken on the ground. Seeing their sheepish look, Q chuckled. Good instincts, but that is why this is a training trip, boys. Better here against a fiend, than in a battle against an enemy who would have capitalized on you avoiding its attack. As you can see, the cactuar is standing there not sure what to do now that its main attack failed. Now, boys, attack, Q said, and both boys did that. Their bokken missed several times as the agile creature leapt aside with a speed that surprised them. Micah stepped back, seeing it take up the familiar pose. Naruto, he yelled in warning, and as the creature used its 10,000 needle attack again, this time they were ready as Micah used his windshield to catch them, and then to the surprise of the cactuar sent them back at it, and it didn't stand a chance. The little being was shredded by its own attack. Its tiny face was one of shock and betrayal at what its own attack had done to it. Good. Now harvest the parts one told you about. We'll sell them off later, Q said, and Naruto and Micah took the parts, putting them in a sack with a storage rune on it. Micah wrapped the parts as he'd been instructed and put them in the sack. Remember, in the underverse, waste not, want not, and take what you can, Naruto said. Give nothing back, Micah finished, and the two shared a grin. They'd adopted that motto as their own. In Lowtown they'd scavenged with the best of them and fought off the street gangs that moved around. The area around the Fox Den became a safe zone, and many of the orphans in Lowtown saw it as a home, many of them living in the abandoned buildings that in the last 3 months were refurbished by items that mysteriously arrived each morning. Q knew his apprentices were stealing from the wealthy citizens of the upper city, and he smiled to himself as they gave nearly everything to the younglings. Shippo commentated once, they are like Reynard. Q had to agree. Their outing that day saw them fight numerous fiends. From sandwolves to a dozen cactuars that thought they could get the pair by cornering them in retaliation. As the sun was setting, both boys were feeling the effects of using Vulner in battle, tracking and enhancing their physical abilities. Eat and go to sleep. In the morning we're going further into the desert, Q told them. He was truly happy with their progress. In 3 months they'd learned equal to what many Zates learned over a decade. Granted, he didn't waste a lot of time on history, and gave brief descriptions of each ability he had them learn, but in the end they were doing better than he ever thought possible. Konoha. In 3 months since Oto had rescued the Uchiha, things for Konoha had gone downhill. Hit-and-run tactics from Orochimaru's forces were leaving much of the once proud village in constant ruins. Civilians were complaining, and the ninja forces were struggling as their numbers were being worn down. Tsunade had the council imprisoned. She told them they allowed this, and she found that the Haruno had been the one to gain them access. Sakura's father was executed at dawn the following morning. The Konoha 10 were promoted to Chunin status for their part in stopping several key root members from escaping. Abiki had learned many of the plans that Danzo had given to the former Sannin. Tsunade looked at her team before her. Hinata Jakela stood with Kakashi Hatake and Iruka Yumino. Tsunade was amazed that Hinata had allowed Kakashi to live after she finally unlocked the Anbu buried memories. Kakashi had attempted to K Naruto when he was younger, testing his Chidori for the first time since its completion. Kakashi on his knees before Hinata begged her to end him, said he'd accept his death. Hinata, however, had pushed the memory further and saw that Kakashi, after striking the blow, had been scared and rushed Naruto to the hospital, saving him in the end. Hinata said she would stay his execution till after he talked with Naruto and told him of his past. She would allow the blonde to decide if Kakashi lived or s. Kakashi bowed his head in acceptance. You mind explaining that again? Tsunade said. Ano, Tsunade-sensei. Hinata said. Iruka, Kakashi and myself wish to search for Naruto. The passive searching hasn't turned up anything, and it's been 20 months since his exile. Jiraiya's spy network has found nothing other than Akatsuki is as lost on his location as we are. Tsunade sighed. Gaara had reported the same loss, as he'd expected Naruto to come to him at some point, and with the blonde not showing up he'd sent patrols on hard searches in Tsunade territory only to find nothing. I know you are becoming frustrated, Hinata, but I must decline. I have need of all the active nin with the attacks from Oto. They're slowly chipping away at us. It's why I've scaled back on missions outside of Fire Country. Tsunade looked sadly at her apprentice. And you being outside of Konoha is begging for Orochimaru to try and capture you. After what you did to Kabuto last month. Flashback. Team 8 was on its way back from a successful mission in Wave, and Hinata was looking forward to finding out if there had been any news about Naruto. Kiba and Shino were talking about a double date with the girlfriends. While Kiba was doing the talking, Shino was as usual just making agreeing sounds with the dog master. Kurenai was thinking about a relaxing soak in the spa when they found their way blocked by a squad of Oto nin and Kabuto. What are you doing in Fire Country, Kabuto? Kurenai asked the glasses-wearing nin. She'd studied his file after the sound's rescue of the Uchiha and the notations Tsunade, Kakashi and Naruto had added to his file. I'm here to take Lady Hyuga to Lord Orochimaru. We've learned of her recent abilities and Lord Orochimaru wishes to extend an offer for her to join us. Pass, Hinata said, standing next to her Jonin instructor. And I am no longer Lady Hyuga. I'm surprised your spy didn't tell you I am the reason why there are only about 24 Hyuga left in Konoha. Kabuto nodded. Lady Hinata then. Lord Orochimaru's spy mentioned your king, your family. It impressed him greatly, especially dealing with your own father, king him on his knees like he was nothing but worthless civilian. Hinata showed no reaction. Kiba and Akamaru both growled, and a low buzz was coming from Shino now. I decline your master's invitation, but you won't be able to tell him, I'm afraid. Hinata said. Oh, and why is that, Lady Hinata? Kabuto asked, a smirk on his face. Because you will be S. Hinata moved, and in a flash her eyes were black as was her hair. Her Juken strike killed the sound nin that got between her and Kabuto with a blow to the N, which exploded. The nin's head went flying and those behind him were covered in gore. Shino let a swarm of his bugs loose and they dined on a pair of sound nins while Kiba and Akamaru spun through 6 of them with his fang over fang attack. Hinata and Kurenai found themselves dealing with Kabuto and 2 other sound nin. Impressive attack, Lady Hinata, but it won't change the fact you will be coming back to Otogakure with us. The only difference will be that your friends here will be alive or S. Kabuto said. He managed to dodge her attack, barely, but her spinning heel kick clipped him and prevented him from getting an attack on her in return. Kurenai fought the 2 sound Jonin. She shook her head. They were Jonin, yet their SKS were worse than Genin. Oto must be desperate if they made you Jonin. Well, I need to end this anyways. Say good night, boys, she said, and her hands flew through their seals and both sound nin were trapped in a genjutsu. They both screamed and fell to the ground. Kurenai turned and saw Shino and Kiba had their opponents under control. Her red eyes looked around and found Hinata and Kabuto in a fight with the sound medic, barely able to dodge, and unable to retaliate. Come now, Lady Hinata. After I saved your life, you wouldn't hurt me now, would you? Kabuto asked, avoiding another Juken strike, but he could feel the chakra in the air and saw that his shirt was now shredded. By Lord Orochimaru, even her near misses are dangerous. What power she wields, he thought. You saved my life to keep your cover, worm. You tried to K Naruto later, and for that alone I will end you. Her next series of strikes grazed his arm and he swore as it went numb and he saw the wounds not closing. I heard of you fight from Lady Tsunade. You struck Naruto in the heart, let me return the favor. Hinata said, and before he could move her hand SN out impossibly faster than before, and Kabuto looked down in shock as her hand went into his chest. Hinata withdrew her hand, his beating heart was in her blood-drenched hand. What do you know, you did have a heart. Hinata said, her black eyes fixing on his shocked ones. Regenerate this asshole, she said, and with a Juken strike her hand obliterated his heart and Kabuto fell backwards. Hinata wasn't done and pulled a kunai and sawed through his N. She looked around and found one sound nin alive. Come here if you wish to live. The nin tripped several times in his scramble to reach her. Kurenai, Kiba and Shino looked on in shock. Take this head to Orochimaru. Tell him he's next for his crimes against Naruto. And tell the Uchiha his judgment day is coming, and he won't survive. You understand me? The nin's head whipped up and quickly. Hinata handed him the head and told him to run. Run he did as if the hounds of hell itself were on his heels. End flashback. Hinata shrugged. I thought it best he realized that his time on this plane of existence was nearing an end. Besides, he and the Uchiha have not left Otogakure since that day. Tsunade sighed. She hated to agree, but it seems that Hinata had put the fear of Kami in her former teammate. She wondered what a fight between Lord Orochimaru and the Hinata-possessed spirit of vengeance would end like, and then she decided she needed Sake as the answer scared her. Kakashi looked up. Any reports on what Orochimaru is teaching Saos, the Uchiha? He asked. He's having every Otonin show him everything with his Sharingan activated, and prisoners are forced to fight for their lives with him watching on. Kakashi sighed regretfully. You three will be working with the new Genin teams. Iruka. I'm asking to take my Jonin test, Lady Tsunade. I think it's time I took on more responsibility. The academy instructor said. She nodded. Since the day of Naruto's exile he'd been withdrawn, and with Konohamaru's graduation, he felt it was time to move on. Very well. I hear Ino has decided to start working at the academy. A knock at the door interrupted and Shizune stepped in. What is it, Shizune? Pardon the interruption, Lady Tsunade, but Inoki asked that I inform you that Sakura has recovered. She's asking to speak with Hinata and Kakashi. Hinata looked at her sensei. You don't have to if you don't wish to, Hinata. The former Hyuga heiress sighed. No, she's paid for her past. Naruto would wish for her to be heard out now, but I won't forget what she's done, but I will judge her actions fresh. Tsunade nodded. The underneath message had been that she would watch the Haruno girl, and should it be warranted she would be wiped out. Dismissed for now. Kakashi, do you wish to try for Chunin? No thank you, Lady Tsunade. I find that being a genin once more has awoken me to certain facts about myself and it keeps me humble. I shall remain genin until Naruto approves of me and forgives me for all I have done for him, or asks for my death. With that Kakashi Hatake left to see his former student. Hinata, I want you to make a genin team then with Kakashi, Sakura and another genin. The living form of vengeance raised an eyebrow. I'll give you the file, for now. I will see the Haruno girl. She said and left. A Chunin in charge of a genin team. Shizune asked her mentor. Not your usual genin team. Kakashi is twice their age, Sakura needs a lot of work and discipline and their last teammate is Hanabi. Shizune looked at her mentor in shock. How much sake have you had this morning? Tsunade sighed and wondered why she gave up drinking like she used to. This job pushed one into alcoholism, or reading Jiraiya's books. She thought remembering the stash of his books she'd found after taking office. She looked at the photo of her former sensei on the wall. Sarutobi sensei, give me strength to do this job till Naruto comes and takes it from me. If this keeps up I might hand the village to Orochimaru and flee with Hinata and Shizune and a few others. The photo of her former sensei said nothing back, but if it did she'd wonder if she had been drinking too much. Come home soon, Naruto. I miss you nearly as much as Hinata, and I hope you will believe me that I didn't sign your exile. X. Undervis. Esther Sans. Naruto rolled and avoided the claw swipe from the giant mantis. The creature was bigger than an adult. The blade-like claws were able to S through a person in a single swipe. And we just happened to stumble upon its nest. Naruto cursed and swore Q had blocked his vulnar senses when he'd used them to sense danger. Naruto, duck, Micah said, and vulnar lightning laced out from the silver-haired teen's fingers and struck the bug. The smell of burning exoskeleton, and Naruto was up. He used his Bokken and SD through one of the mantis's limbs. Their training with Q had shown them how to put vulnar into the wooden weapons and they'd been able to cut through anything they'd crossed thus far. Naruto went low and performed an upward swipe that took off the bug's head off. Clapping from behind had them both turn and see Q reclining against the wall. I knew you two could handle it. Barker Fox. Naruto grumbled as he and Micah started the ritual of skinning the mantis, placing its fluids in jars marked with unbreakable seals. Naruto saw as Micah found the nest and sealed away the eggs. It hadn't cared its mate too long ago, so they're relatively fresh. Q said, approving of Micah's care for the unhatched horde. Don't forget its claws. Micah said to Naruto. The blade-like appendages were certain to get a fair price, and if not, the two knew a few people in Lowtown who could make them into weapons. Search the rest of the cave. It might have gotten other hunters or fiends for food. Q said. A thorough search of the cave yielded a nice haul. Weapons ranging from swords, daggers, and spears and bows to hides and even bones. Oh, bag the bones. They're from a salamander. Alchemists will buy them as they get ground up for some of their potions. Q said and watched as Micah secured the bones in their own scroll and then put them in the sack. See what I mean about storage runes? Q asked. Yeah. Remind me to thank Siobhan for those lessons. Naruto said. Grr. You wouldn't have asked her if I hadn't told you to. Q pouted. And while we were learning, you were staring at her ass. Micah said, juggling a couple of jewels he'd found in the back of the cave. Keep those safe. I'll have a use for those stones later. Q ordered, ignoring the taunt of him staring at the female kitsune's ample backside. That was one thing he missed being solid. What now, Barker Fox? Naruto asked. Out amid the desert he'd refused to call the Fox Master. It was either just Q, QB or Barker Fox, or Arrow Fox. Sun's setting. The cave is secure, we can use it as a base camp. We'll stay out here another day, then return to Solid Anu and sell off everything. Then I want you both to spend several days with Mako in the library. I want you both to learn about forging weapons. Why? Naruto asked. Because Dobe, you both have progressed faster than I thought you would. I think it's time you learn to make the weapons of a Zet, the mechadisciple. A what? Sorry, Master. I'm still not sure on this demon language, and I'm not sure on translations. Naruto said after a look from Q. The best way to describe the mechadisciple is it is similar to the Raijin blade that you fought on that one mission. Q said. However, the mechadisciple is stronger, and is made of pure demon energy. We will be going on a journey to the demon graveyard. There you will be acquiring parts for forge your mechadisciples. How will we do that, Master? Micah asked, curious how a weapon could be made from demon parts. It is one thing that binds humans and demons together in this realm. It is what gives Zet such power. The mechadisciple is made of demon parts, but no demon can use them. The handle or the hilt of the mechadisciple is made from a demon's bone or fang. The power source is made from democite, a type of crystal that is what demon's chakra or a demon's yukai forms into. Q explained. I will have Mako retrieve the books on their forging from the vault. Q said to clarify the type of forging was not going to be the type they watched at the blacksmith shops. Sigh, and the final part of the forging is that we will need to speak with the demon orbs. We will need a demon's soul shard as the final piece. You will need to face 3 trials. I will not speak of them until it's time. Just know I believe in the both of you to pass them, you are ready for those trials. Both weren't sure what to say. Q was acting serious about this and they knew that it would be dangerous. But the trials worried them both. The way Q spoke of them meant there could be dire consequences for failure. Their return to Solid Anu was rather peaceful as they killed more sand wolves and cactuar adding to their booty. They visited the bazaar and after a lot of haggling with some tight-pursed merchants they got a good deal on nearly everything. It was the mantis claws and eggs that they fought over. The merchants tried to cheat them, but Q wouldn't let them go cheaply. The eggs alone were a small gold mine. Then my bitey will simply take them elsewhere. Good day. Q floated away and Micah and Naruto bagged the scrolled claws and eggs. You didn't offer him the salamander bones, Master. Micah said. PFFT. There's an apothecary near the north gate. We'll go there. I'm sure she'll buy the eggs. The claws, we'll take to Lowtown. Oh, Kalen will be more than fair. Q cut himself off finding his way blocked. QB, Demon Fox Lord. The armored warrior inquired. What of it? Q asked, not concerned about the wall of armor blocking the street. My bitey and I have much to do, so speak up, guard. Q said. You are summoned to stand before the Empress. The guard said. Q sighed. I am sorry you are wasting your time, as I am disinclined to say yes to your request. Q said and his eyes focused on the head guard. I won't use my power, but your Empress knows better than to demand anything from me. Lord QB. All in the street turned and many of the citizens bowed. The guard went to their knees and QB sighed. Hello Hermione. The shade said, his tails waving behind him in an agitated manner. One of the guards growled. Don't speak her name, filthy demon. Naruto growled as well, his hand going to the sword strapped to his back, Micah's hand catching him from drawing. It seems the welcoming of your court has lessened as of late, your highness. Q said, arching an eyebrow at the woman standing beyond the kneeling guards. She was dressed in a white robe with beads, an elaborate headdress with jewels and feathers, her face painted white, her lips stained red and her eyeshadow deepening her eyes. Hint, think Amidala from Phantom Menace. Sorry for such rudeness, Lord QB. But with the demon lords missing, many in the court are gossiping, and you know how court intrigue plays with the weak minds. The Empress said, a smile tainting her lips. Sadly I do. Q agreed. What brings the Empress from her ivory halls to the streets? Surely you have more important matters than to seek out a simple shade. I have need of you, counsel Lord QB. Lord Phoenix is near his burning day, and the halls lack the Phoenix's wise words till his rebirth. I learned of your return and was saddened that you did not present yourself to the court. Alas, Hermione, I am but a shadow of my former self, and it will be some time till the Fox Lord can claim his throne. The Empress's painted eyes looked over Q's shoulder and studied Naruto. It has been long time since you were last here, Lord QB. Walk with me. Q sighed. It was a direct command from the Empress, and his ghost legs moved and he was beside her. One of the guards twitched and he found a bokken blade at his end. Naruto glared at the man while Micah stood watching the other armored guards rising and their weapons coming to defensive positions. Boys, Q called out. Yes, master, Naruto asked, his eyes not leaving the guard. Don't hurt him too badly. Q warned. I'll meet you back at the den. Prepare for our trip, and annoy Shippo while you wait. Hi, Micah said in acknowledgement. His bokken was crackling with energy, and a breeze kicked up around them. The Empress and Q walked away, followed by the Empress's personal bodyguard. Naruto cracked his N as he and Micah shared a look. You brats think you can take us? The guard growled. Think. Nah. Know that we can, yes. The blonde growled back. Besides, if this is your level of intelligence, we are going into a fight against unarmed opponents. Micah said. Get them. The guard yelled, and before his compatriots could move or think of moving, they were shocked as their armor was SD to ribbons. Micah's eyes glowed slightly as he controlled his winged blades to peel the armor from the guards. Their weapons fell apart like salami. Naruto's punch broke the guard's jaw and knocked him out. Oops. I think I hit him too hard. The blonde admitted while they stood there. Citizens were cheering him on. The two shared a look, and after raiding the guards and coming up with a hefty amount of coins, they walked away after binding the guards to one another in the middle of the streets, Naruto being childish and leaving a sign, kick the guard 1 silver. They were both surprised by the line that went around the corner, and Naruto told one of the kids that they could split the money, but to run should the guards get loose, but to collect coin from everyone who wanted a kick. The pair were laughing still when they reached the fox den. They heard music and sounds and they exchanged a look. Kinda early for business. Naruto paused. Could have been a last-minute party. Micah said after a moment. Let's go around back and use the stairs there. Both boys slipped around back and up the stairs to the rooms they'd been given. Only someone recognized could pass through the illusion that hid the stairs. Over the past 20 months, Naruto had been learning from Q while they were together how to use kitsune-based genjutsu, and Naruto found a lot of the kitsune arts worked better for him than those he learned back in Konoha. He'd asked Q about it since he'd been separated, but the shade of the Fox Lord had been reluctant to explain it. Naruto shrugged. The fighting style, ninjutsu, genjutsu and kenjutsu he'd been learning and what Q had taught him made him feel complete. The lessons had flowed and he understood it better than what he'd learned in Konoha. Micah mentioned his own lessons with Ariel had been better for him and different than all he'd learned. The old Draconian had taken Micah for private lessons every day since their arrival, and he'd told Naruto about them. They'd been surprised at how similar they were, but the differences in styles of taijutsu and some of the ninjutsu and genjutsu. The kenjutsu were close enough and the two fought well together, covering each other's open weaknesses. What do you think it all means? Naruto asked as they slipped up the stairs. Not a clue, bro. Hey, did you see that Empress? She was hot. Naruto laughed at his friend and adopted brother. You said the same thing about those vixen triplets last week, and that. I get the point, Naruto. I just like women, Micah said while the blonde laughed at his friend's blush. Besides, It's better than your turning red and running away muttering about Ero-sanin and stupid books. That just makes the vixens more determined to corner you. Now it was Naruto's turn to mutter and blush. Wasn't funny. I nearly had a heart attack waking up with Shiraiza in bed with me that morning. But the look on your face will bring a smile to my face for the rest of my days. Besides, it's not like you have anyone waiting, right? Use our new motto, bro. Take what you can. Naruto smiled as he finished, give nothing back. He sighed. I know, but I was thinking about something Master Q said. There might actually be someone back in Konoha for me, and Micah sighed now. We'll cross and burn that bridge when we get to it. A knock at the door and they both turned. Come on in, Shippo. Naruto called. The teen-sized Kitsune entered. Heard you two had a successful training trip. And caused the guard some humiliation upon your return. Don't know what you're talking about, Ship. Micah said, looking totally innocent. Insert halo, which turns to tin and slips off. Hey, try lying to someone not used to passing 'em along. I got a message. I'm supposed to take you both to the library and get you what the old fox wants. He grinned. It's been a while since I stole from the great library. Whoa, what do you mean steal from the library? Naruto asked. I thought we were supposed to read up on forging there. Micah also paused his packing to ask. Shippo grinned. You actually think Kyuubi's going to stay around here now that the Council of 12 and the Empress know that he's back? Shippo laughed. Oh guys, that's rich. He avoids council whenever he can. We heard something about the demon lords not being in court. Shippo nodded. The Council of 12 is the Hume Council. A bunch of old busybody sorcerers. They each specialize in a field. Necromancer, illusionist, alchemist, spell singer, spell weaver, elementalist are just a few. They were to balance out the demon lords. But aren't there only 9 demon lords? Micah asked. No, there are 15 demon lords. 12 form the council. The last 3, Shippo paused. You'll have to ask your master. I don't know enough to talk about them. Naruto and Micah followed the Kitsune. What was the party we heard in the den? Micah asked as they were walking away, surprised they'd slipped out the back way once again. Chandrala's pregnant, again. Shippo said. It's always big when one of us has kids. Once they were in the upper city, they took several allies to the center of town where the huge tower stood. The Great Library. 10 floors above ground, 10 floors underground, and it extends to the city walls in all directions underground. And only one entrance. Micah muttered. Shippo pointed to the gargoyle statues. And protected very fiercely. Naruto knew that. He'd seen the creatures move. He'd asked Q about it, and the Fox Lord had shook his head and said that was something he couldn't tell him about yet. They entered the Great Library and Shippo paused. Creepy. He muttered, looking around the stacks that went ceiling to floor. A few tables were scattered with light orbs hovering in the air. May I help you? All 3 nearly jumped out of their skins at the voice that came from behind them. Konoha. So it's been confirmed. Tsunade asked. Hi. Sound, rain, rock, cloud and grass have allied together. Asuma said, biting down on his cigarette. Oto, Iwa, Kumo and Kusa, not good. Inoiki Yamanaka said, looking at the map on the wall. And allied with us are sand, waterfall and snow, but Yukigakure doesn't have any ninjas and the most they can do is send supplies. And Waterfall's forces are barely a dozen. If it hadn't been for us, they would have been wiped out totally, and truthfully it was Uzumaki that got us these alliances. Several people in the room winced. Will they help us? Choza asked. Yes. Gaara is sending us Nin as support. He isn't happy with Konoha, but he told me it is what Naruto would want. Princess Yuki also said she would send supplies. She said if Konoha doesn't pull its head out of its backsides, she's pulling her support. Jiraiya tells them all. She was not pleased to hear how Konoha treated a hero like Naruto. Iruka spoke up. Any news about him? Yes, actually. Jiraiya said, surprising everyone. What? Tell us. Several voices shouted at once. Hinata and Shizune paused in their filing and looked at the Toad Sannin. Jiraiya gulped at the looks he was getting. Well, I was out near the river and Stars village and I visited this little village in a valley. I heard them talking about recent bandit troubles. They were telling the people of Stars about how the bandits had been driven off by 2 youths, and one of the river folk mentioned Naruto by name. Hinata was focused on the Toad Sage fully now. She said Naruto and a boy named Micah rescued her and her brother from the bandits, killing them all and returning their crops. Jiraiya continued. I asked them after the Stars villages had left, and they said that Naruto and a boy named Micah had been around their village training. They said that they left recently, they didn't say where. Jiraiya informed them. I tried to find their trail, but not a step could I find. I summoned a couple of the toads and they informed me that Naruto has not summoned them at all. Tsunade swore under her breath. So close, and yet so far. Well, it's good news that he's alright, but I wonder who this Micah is. Shizune said. Micah could be Mikahamaru Melwasu. Aruka said. He used to be Naruto's friend here in the village, but he left suddenly one day. Tsunade snapped her fingers and started digging through her desk. Where is it? No, that's not it. Nope. No. Oh, that's where that got to. The gathered Jonin, Chunin and clan heads shook their heads. Oh, blackmail, gotta remember about that for later. Tsunade slipped a photo into her pocket and several people looked nervous at that one. Now where was it? The old monkey, aha. She said and pulled out a scroll. Cracking the seal on it, she scanned it and nodded. Did you get a description of this Micah? She asked her former teammate. Jiraiya nodded and rattled it off. It was Melwasu. He left the village when he was 9 to learn how to control his dual bloodline. Coughs and exclamations filled the room. Why would he leave the village? Kurenai asked. It is because when his father's bloodline activated, he killed a mob. What? Tsunade looked at the scroll. It says here only the third and Abiki knew what happened that night, but Micah is never to be marked missing. It goes on to say he might return to take Naruto with him, and if that happens to allow it. Tsunade looked over at the special Jonin, and Konoha's master interrogator. You have something to tell us, Abiki? The scarred Jonin shook his head. Sorry, Lady Hokage. I swore to the third I would take what I saw that day to my grave. That kid scared the hell out of me. Many in the room found their eyes wide at that. What is his Kekkei Genkai? Shikaku Nara asked. I think I remember the boy now that I think about it. Several others nodded. Well, his first bloodline, the one that sent him away for training, was his ability to manipulate blood in someone's body. Wide eyes stared back at Tsunade as she read it from the scroll. Yes, he can manipulate blood, interesting. He was sent to a Shambhala master, who it says here also helped him with his second Kekkei Genkai, wind manipulation. Whoa, 2 very dangerous abilities, and the third just let him go. One of the Chunin in the back said. No, says here Mikahamaru was scared of harming his friend Naruto and wanted to learn how to control it. There are notes here that the pair was something else growing up. Aruka chuckled. They were prank masters from hell. Naruto alone was bad enough, but when Micah worked with him, they had Anbu running in circles. Kurenai paused. Wait, she rounded on Aruka. They were the ones who backed up the hot springs. Aruka laughed. I remember that prank. They had it explode and all the women in there were exposed that day. Asuma laughed. They got away as the women were busy beating the hell out of every guy in the area. Guy shook his head. Most unyouthful prank I'd ever seen, but they managed to do it undetected. Tsunade put the scroll on her desk. So we have 2 Konoha youths out there. This is getting worse and worse. Should Orochimaru or Akatsuki find them? The 5th Hokage looked at the map, then at the gathered people in her office. Guy, I want you and your team to search for Naruto. Hinata stood and Tsunade shook her head. No, Hinata, you know why. Trust Guy and his team. 3 Chunin and a Jonin will be fine. I will do as you ask, Tsunade. Guy said. He then looked at Hinata. I will find Naruto for you, Hinata. I swear I will not return till I do. Several people sweat dropped as Guy leapt out the window. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.